Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. This is Mike and
Beth.
There. I had to get it in quick, or I knew you'd cut me off like you did last week.
Yeah, I didn't say it too fast that time. I was good. By the way, does anybody listen to us anymore? Just curious. You never talk about stats.
Well, I mean, I don't like to brag. Yeah, people are listening.
Okay. I was just curious.
Are you? Like a cat?
Yes.
Is that what your friends call you, Whiskers?
Yep, that is.
Have you had a good morning so far?
I have. Have you?
Crashing my time.
What I didn't have a good morning with is our dog at like 6 or something was in here just whining and whining and whining. And I put the pillow over my head hoping she would stop, and she didn't. So then it's like, once you're awake, you're awake. So then you were going to Panera, and I was like, well, I should go. And you're like, okay. And then you just sit there and like, you'll ask me a question. But if I have a follow-up question for you, you're like, I'm not awake yet. Please don't ask me questions. You're stressing me out.
I ask you a very general question, like a yes, no.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to do the podcast when we get back home? And you said yes. That was it.
Yeah.
You're asking me to like figure out what the best savings plan to give us the highest interest yield over the next 30 years will be.
Not 30 years.
Whatever.
You know,
I mean, you're just like, what are you talking about? I don't even do math. I only do money.
Yeah. Our other thing is, too, we have to worry about our son is out in the wilderness on his job, too. So we have that to worry about today, too. So we have all these things to worry about.
Yes. Jacob is out with his new job with the Audubon Society of North Carolina. He's out in the field today for the first time all by himself, out in the woods.
Places with no paths and stuff. He was saying he hopes landowners don't like yell at him or something. Yeah.
He's freaked out.
Because he doesn't feel great and he forgot his water. And so it's a whole series of disasters, and he's having to just go to GPS coordinates and hike and stuff. It just sounds crazy.
It'll make him stronger.
I hope so.
It'll make him a good employee.
It's kind of like, I sent Mike this video, and it was real. It wasn't AI, but it was a mama lion and a dad lion and baby lion, and the baby lion had fallen in the water.
This is at a zoo.
Yeah, so the mom's minding her own business, trying to get the baby lion out. As soon as it's in there drowning, she's over with her foot. Well, then the dad comes, jumps on her back and bites her, like to stop the lion or whatever. And she turns around and she rips him a new one. She's like giving it to him, like, I'm getting my baby out. And he backs off, and then she goes and pulls the baby lion out. But I feel like that we are living that right now with Jacob, because I'm all worried like about him, and you're just like, oh, he'll be fine. He'll get stronger from it.
You're wanting to support helicopter and lawnmower lions. That's what it is.
No, it is
and
not.
And the dad lion was just like, let the cub, he'll get out. Like, he's not going to learn how to get out of water.
Do you know what I think it was? I think the dad lion was jealous of the baby lion, because he's like, this baby lion might take over my status as the dominant male, or the baby lion's getting all the attention from the wife lion.
He didn't walk away from the mom lion because he was intimidated. He walked away with this look of, fine, do whatever you want.
No, he didn't. He walked away because she was
raise this.
No, she went mama bear on him.
Cub.
She went mama bear on him, and he was just like, oh, I'm not messing with that. She will tear me apart. That's the way he looked. You should post that video in the comments so people can see, and they can figure out their own, what they take away from it.
You know, and I'm not good. I'll do polls occasionally, but then I never update on the podcast what the poll said. So you had me ask a poll a couple weeks ago. Do you remember what it was?
No. I didn't even remember we'd had a poll.
We had a poll a couple weeks ago, and you're like, I wonder how people feel about this.
What was it?
I don't remember.
Okay, all right then.
Can you pull it up? Pull it up on your phone. Go to our Facebook page.
Okay.
But I know the results were 50-50. I was really surprised.
Oh, wasn't it something to do with introverts and extroverts or something, or internal processors?
Yes, that was it. Are you an internal processor or an external processor?
Yeah, that's what it was. Because,
And the results was 50-50.
Right.
So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it means, because I remember I was like, where are all my external processors, you know? So I was just like, what's happening? Poll, yeah. Okay, from the newest episode, are you an internal or external processor? It's literally, is it exactly 50-50?
Yes, that's what I told you. It was crazy.
Because my thing, here's what I don't like about those polls. If I try to click on this to see how many people.
It look like you voted.
Yes, it makes it look like I voted. And so, but a lot of people we're like, Laura's an external processor like me. She said, Katrina is an internal processor, but she homeschools an external processor. So she has a lot of fun. So it's just like, but yeah. So anyway, so that was our poll. But you can put the lion thing on there so everybody can see it.
I mean, looking at the results of that, when I was looking to see just the type of people who voted, I really felt like the more intellectuals were the internal processors.
Oh, whatever.
You could just tell by their pictures.
Yeah. Oh, by their pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. No judginess in that. Okay.
Well, what else you going to judge somebody by? Judging ain't bad.
Maybe the external processors are the people that bring joy and fun to life.
Or they bring chaos.
And
because
spontaneity.
Everything that comes to their head comes out their mouth.
Well, not necessarily.
And then the internals don't know if we're supposed to answer or not.
That is the problem you always have. And I'm like, read the room. How hard is it to know if it's a rhetorical question or a real question? And now it's gotten to the point that I have to say that. Like, I'll ask you a question. I sit there a few minutes. You don't respond. And I'm like, are you not listening or do you not realize that you're supposed to answer? Because it's just like, answer the question.
I'm hoping it's like a bear. If I'm still long enough, you'll just go away.
Okay.
You'll just walk away and leave me be.
Well, meanwhile, I'm worried about Jacob, and I think that lion, I hope he'll be okay today. I feel bad for him as he's learning to navigate this, and I'm glad that I hope his phone battery keeps going and he keeps the signals and keep us updated.
Yeah, you should tell him that. You should text him and be like, if you keep blowing up our phone, your battery's going to go dead.
I'm not going to do that. No. I don't know how he gets out, though, with the GPS coordinates, though. So, anyway.
I don't know either.
Oh, well, okay. That's why he needs a satellite phone.
But he said these spots are only a quarter of a mile apart.
But he's having to hike up big hills, and you got to think he's not on a path. It's just like being in the woods where you're walking around, you don't know exactly where you're going.
Yeah, that's what bird people do.
Okay, anyway.
He's like a Lewis and Clark out there.
That is exactly what he's like.
He might be stepping on pieces of land that no human has ever stepped on.
I'm sure, yes. I don't know. Do you think there are places like that on the East Coast? I don't know that there are. Out west, yes, like in those deserts and stuff. But I just feel like even the remote parts of the East Coast has had somebody on it.
I don't know.
Like I just feel like we're so populated and we got populated early, and I just feel like there's not a ton of that.
I just feel like if people have walked there, they would have built something. That's how people are. That's
the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. There are places there's no reason to build something. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, how was your weekend?
It was good. How was your weekend?
It was fine. I went to a wedding.
I did too.
Our friends Sam and Misty got married.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
It was outside. It was fun. They had all their favorite things. So hey.
Like you and I?
Yes, we're their favorite people. But she loves popcorn. So she had a bowl of popcorn, or they'll like a certain, they had if you're going to have this food, it's this is from this part of North Carolina or whatever. So we like that, I mean, so it's it was good. And it was fun. It was smaller, but fun and intimate and stuff. And so it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. It was at her family's homestead, I guess you'll call it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a rural part, about 30 minutes away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And they had fixed it up real nice. And
I
don't know maybe 60 people were invited.
Yeah.
And so we were in that 60, and we had a table of 8 of us from Re3 that were invited. And
it was
it was
the cool
together.
table.
It was.
That's what they told us. People confirmed it.
Yeah. Sit there and make fun of everybody else.
Like the photographer, when he took pictures, he confirmed we were the coolest table.
Yeah.
The most fun table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else seemed like duds.
Nah.
Except for that one kid who peed all over himself. That kid was a party animal.
It's not confirmed. It's highly
It was
suspected.
confirmed. They changed his pants.
Oh, okay.
How old do you think the kid was? 4?
No, younger than that.
3. He had to have been.
He was little, but yeah.
Little. I mean, old enough you don't pee your
But
pants.
he was cute. He was just having fun.
He was on the dance floor, pants on.
But remember in
Cowboy
that movie,
boots.
all the cool kids pee their pants.
Just crotch wet as could be.
Yeah. It was cute.
Everybody noticed it but his mom.
Yeah. She obviously wasn't like that Mama Lion. She wasn't a helicopter parent.
No.
So there you go.
She had a new kid. She had a baby. So that was taking all her attention.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she had already forgotten about her other son. That's how what people do. You get a new
don't.
one and you forget about the old ones.
Okay, then that doesn't work with the whole thing of like the third one raises themselves or whatever. So you can't have it both ways. You can't be like the baby takes all the attention and then say the baby like gets like
I
no
feel like
attention.
you baby Josh more than you did Maria and Jacob.
No,
True.
I babied the other two. Yes, I did. I
You still
babied
baby Josh.
I would baby them too if they'd let me. They're just adults now, so I can't.
No.
How do I baby him?
The baby of the family always gets babied.
I don't
Everybody
baby him.
realizes it but you.
I don't know what I've done to baby him. I don't know. I don't understand.
Stuff. You've done stuff.
See, you can't even think of an example, and that's why I haven't done it.
We could
but-
spend 2 hours talking about
Okay.
all the examples I have.
Okay. Well, you have some news you said at church.
Oh, well, just throw me into the deep end.
Sorry. Well, did you talk? I can't remember. Did we talk last time about 30 years? We did, right? The mission, the 3052.
We talked about it, yeah.
Yeah. But you can talk about it a little more again.
Yeah, so this, I don't know, whenever, we're recording this on May 18th. May 20th will be 30 years in ministry for me.
Mm-hmm. May 20th. I got to put that on the Mike's anniversary of ministry date.
Well, I mean, it stops May 20th. That's when I'm retiring.
Oh,
So,
please. Okay. Anyway.
I am semi-retiring. I announced that yesterday at church. Taking a sabbatical beginning June 1st. And right now it's planned for 3 months, June, July, and August, with an estimated return date of September 1st. But we shall see.
He's returning
We shall see.
to do something. You're working. You're not getting to retire. I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, I'm going to do something. I'm not like going to just sit on the beach,
yeah,
but I would. But
if you could.
if I could.
But I won't let you.
No, you're going to nag me.
I
to
keep like poking you,
I'll have
making you
to go back
aspire
to
to
work
greatness.
just to take a break from you having me do all the stuff that you
That's
want me
true
to do.
because I have a lot of things that I want done around the house. I'm like, yes, we have things to do.
Yeah, and so I feel like I've earned it.
But like,
I've
how
been-
long do we think the average minister stays in ministry? I
Not
would love
30 years.
Yeah, I want to know. I don't know how long. I'm gonna see if I can tell real quick because
And I'm going to tell you what was aggravating about yesterday. The more I thought about it, and I know people didn't mean it this way because they came up laughing. They were like, "Well, if you're quitting church for 3 months, we'll quit church for 3 months." I wanted to be like, this ain't your freaking job. You know, like you come 1 hour a week at most. Like, this is what I do, you know? Like, you don't tell teachers that. You don't tell cops that. You don't tell architects that or whoever it is when they retire. Like, well, I guess you're going to stop. Since you're stopped being a cop, I guess I'm going to start doing all the crime I want to. You know? I mean, that's the equivalent.
Well, this says this is not the exact answer we wanted, but the average pastor stays at a single congregation 3 to 4 years. So you definitely exceed that in how long you've stayed. And studies indicate median tenure for pastor is 3.6 to 6 years. The third year danger. Research shows that the third year is the most common time for a pastor to resign or be let go. But I feel like that's the case in a lot of fields now. That's what I see at work because I feel like the first year everybody's like goo-goo-eyed over everybody when a new employee's there and they are still convincing you that they can do everything they said they could do on their resume and interview. And then the second year, they're finding out, this employer isn't everything they told me. And you're finding out this employee can't do half the stuff. And by the end of the second year, when you realize, it's not a match, by the third year, they're already looking. So sometime in the third year, they leave. So I could see that going both ways. But it does say, while the statistic is debated, many estimates suggest a large percentage of seminary graduates transition out of the professional ministry within the first 5 years.
I believe it.
Yeah. So that's some of these are like a certain denomination.
I know overwhelmingly more pastors that have quit the ministry than have stayed 30 years.
Right.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah. Right.
And they've gone into other professions. They're insurance agents or contractors or whatever. It's what they do. And that's fine.
Right.
But to stay 30 years in ministry, to me, is a badge of honor as a pastor because I just don't think people do that anymore.
Well, this thing too, there's an article here that has the life is Tom Rayner.
He's like the guru.
He wrote the life cycle of a pastor and like the honeymoon period, 0 to 6 months. But they said that era is getting shorter and shorter for the life cycle of pastors. Like members are more fearful about the future. So there's less and less of a honeymoon period. Challenges and conflict come 6 months to 4 years. That's when the honeymoon is over. It said for 2 decades, this difficult period of a pastor's tenure only lasted 2 years. Now the pastor can expect for it to last over 3 years, the difficulties and stuff. And that's why a lot of times in that 6 months to 4 years, pastors either resign or get fired. Then year 4 to 7, acceptance and stability. It says for many years, they called this the growth era of a pastor's life cycle until the pandemic. And this is one of the things you talked about, the pandemic and what it did to you at church on Sunday. It was common for the pastor to lead the church to growth during this time more than any other point, that 4 to 7 year mark. But today, they just say it's a time of acceptance and stability after a period of conflict. Growth isn't as common as it was in years past, I guess just because churches aren't growing. And then they say years 7 to 10 is an inflection point. This is the defining point for a long-term pastor. Possible for a church to have a growth stage at this point, but it's possible for the pastor to cease leading the church toward growth. And so it's like if the pastor's already leading to retirement, I'm like, goodness. And then it says mystery after year 10. We still don't have sufficient data to name this stage, and many attempts to define it seem futile because we just don't see any consistent patterns after the 10th year. So that's just interesting, and he's an expert on this, So you said.
So if you make it 10 years, you're doing good. After that, you're just on your own.
Yeah,
Who knows what happens?
Yeah, it's like that's what it sounds like. It sounds like if you make it 10 years, like you've done something, and after that, you're in uncharted territory. You're like the explorers we were talking about, like Jacob is out there today. You're just out there trying to follow GPS coordinates, not knowing if you're going to make it.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times in ministry I didn't think I was going to make it. I felt like Jacob did right now. The mountain was steep. There was no roads.
Yeah.
Like I could get eaten by a bear at any point.
And COVID really messed everything up, not just during COVID when, everybody was fighting over masks or indoor, outdoor church and all that stuff, but COVID also just because now the church has never been the same after COVID. Not our church, the church, capital C, the church in general. I think what people want from church, how committed people are to attending church and church events. Now with online too, not that this is bad, but more so than ever before, that whole, you kind of almost have not two congregate, but since you have the option of online, you never know. I always hate it now when people are like, how many people attend your church? Because we're not a church that has members. We don't do the old become a member or whatever. And you never, I guess you could try to figure out how many people are watching online, but even if you do that, one household could have more than one person. And now people just are they move around and travel and do things and volunteer and all that so much. How do you look around and even say what your average attendance is anymore at any church, not just ours? It's just a very different world. It's not like when I grew up, remember the dudes that would pass around the offering plate would stand in the back and count. Do you remember those little boards?
Yeah, and you would
They
slide
were brown, and you'd
Mm-hmm.
slide the numbers on so you could see how many people came last week or whatever, how many people were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd always say membership 572, worship attendance 39. It's
Churches, that's what they would have.
I thought membership in churches is so stupid.
Because how do you know how do you not be a member anymore? Because you're not paying a subscription fee or something. It's clear if I'm still a quote member of Netflix because I'm paying for it every month. And if I stop paying, I guess you'd say I'm not a member. But with a church, How do you, and especially now in this online world, how would you know? You know?
And anytime you need a membership vote on something, it's always over something divisive.
Yeah.
And they go and dig up people who haven't been in
Yeah.
that church
Yeah.
in 15 years
And
to
you're
come
like,
vote for your
Yeah.
side.
They're like voting on something and they're like, wait a minute, who are half of these people?
Yeah.
Or when did we paint all this? Or when did we change this in the building or whatever?
It's
They don't
just
even know
ridiculous.
anymore. Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I said yesterday at church in the sermon, if our church is draining for you, go find another church. You know, like it's like if you're not in, get out. Like that's fine. Like
Yeah.
there's no problem with that. Go find somewhere where you're getting fed. Go somewhere church shouldn't be stressful.
The last
know?
thing everybody needs in this world now is another thing that they feel obligated to and dread, or another thing on the to-do list that's like a burden to
Yeah.
them, you know? Like, I mean, and I think for all of us, you're all going to wake up on those Sundays and be like, oh, I don't feel like going. You know, it's kind of like when you're invited to something social and you kind of don't feel like going, but you know, if I go, I'm going to enjoy it and feel better in the end. So we're not talking about that. Everybody has those days. But I mean, I do think there's some people who like don't like their church, or, you know, like they don't like the people
They don't
there.
like
they
the
don't like the
pastor,
leader. They don't like the
gossip,
music. They don't like,
yeah.
and it's
just
like,
go somewhere
don't
else.
go. Why? I mean, why do that to yourself? Life's too short to be
Yeah.
miserable,
Yeah.
you know, committed to something you don't care about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, and we were talking about this last night with Ross, like it should be like if your church ceased to exist and you couldn't go there anymore, it would leave a void in your life. You know,
Right.
like, man, I really miss this.
And when we talk about the church too, we're not talking about just the music or just the preaching. Like you'd miss the community, the people, the outreach, the volunteer things, the different, you know, the relationships you've built.
Yeah.
All of that's the church. I think, you know, we used to always put so much emphasis on like the music and the sermon, or really just the sermon. I feel like when I grew up, it was the sermon.
It was. That was what everything was built around.
Everything was built around that.
And it still is in most churches.
Yeah.
In our church, we've tried really hard just to make that one more thing. That
Yeah.
it's not built around the Sunday morning service.
Right.
It's not, our church is not built around a pastor, preacher driven, you know,
Right.
like it all hinges on this 30-minute sermon.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that is just, the 30-minute sermon is no different. It's no more important or less important than children's church, which is going on at the same time.
Right.
You know, it's a thing, and it's just whatever.
Well, the good thing is, too, and I will brag on you, but this is the sign of a good leader, and you wouldn't have been able to do this years ago. But I know a lot of people think, oh, you're a great leader if everything crumbles and falls apart in your absence. That just shows how wonderful you are. No, that shows that you were a control freak and you micromanaged and you didn't delegate and you didn't trust people. And that also shows that something was built solely around you, not around the vision, you know? Whereas I think what you, and I mean, I think both of us would say early on in our first church plant, to a certain extent, that could have been true. I think if you had been like, I'm going to go away for 3 months, would have came back and there'd have been no church left.
Church.
It wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
But now I think we'll come back and it'll just be rolling along smoothly. But I don't think that's because that's not a thing where it's like, oh, wow, well, that proves we don't need Mike. I think that shows like that you've put leaders in place, and there's still the need, because I think there's still the need for like the casting the vision. And I've had a lot of people ask me, because I think the other thing is what we're doing at Re3 is different. So I have a lot of my friends that are like, I don't understand. So is Mike preaching? Is he stop? Like, I think, again, because so many people build the idea of the church around the preacher. That's what you do. If you're not in there preaching and counseling people, or preaching and making sure somebody's covering children's church, what else is there for you to do all week? And that's been the interesting thing too, is trying to like redefine and get people to understand, like Project Re3, it's a Christian nonprofit. It's also a church. It's also got the Hope Center. It's also got the outreach and the missions. But as executive director, you're the person who has to keep all of those things connected. Like, you're the person that has to make sure in many ways that the Hope Center's not doing something that conflicts, or, you know, that we're not having a major church event on the exact same day we're having a major Hope Center event, or that we're not out asking the exact same people to give to a church event that's giving, you're having to make sure that what we're doing is coordinated and aligned. But also I think people, don't understand so much of it now. I feel like your role is too this like community presence in some of the things you're doing, like being out in the community at events so people know that Read 3 is there or the Hope Center is there, or making connections so that we can have alternatives for the outreach and the people we're supporting internationally. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting because you do get stuck into like your ideas of what something looks like. And this kind of goes along with what we talked about last week. I don't think you and I necessarily think the same about things. And so you've had a vision for something. So Project Read 3 is not going to fit in an easy box.
Yeah.
And you are still preaching some. So it's not like you're not, but Tim is and that's the thing that I think people struggle with when I try to explain that. They're like, so Mike's never preaching. I'm like, no, he still preaches some, but he's not the preacher in charge. Like I said, of like, if Laura's like, oh, I don't have anybody to do children's ministry, or what are we have to make these decisions about VBS. Those are going to be like Tim decisions because they're church decisions.
I'm more of what, like if you were following like pro wrestling, I'm now moved into the attraction.
Oh.
Like when John Cena would show up, and everybody's like, oh, wow, John Cena never wrestles. He's here. This means something. That's how it is when I preach now. They're like, whoa, Mike's preaching.
It's like homecoming or something. It's like, we brought in that special dude.
Yeah.
And some people are like, who is that guy?
And then I go away for a while, and then I pop back up.
Like, who is he? Oh, he's a legend. He started this. He used to be here a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, was he going to do something else?
Yeah.
No, he's just at home. Does he live far away? No, 2 miles away.
He could walk here if there weren't so much traffic on this road. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think, I've used this illustration a couple times. I don't feel burned out. I feel like 30 years has been a marathon.
Yeah.
And
you're tired.
I'm tired. And it's like people who run, they run a marathon, and most people don't want to run a marathon the next day. They want to rest and get ready, and then with their eyes set on another marathon, but they need time to recover.
And as a person, I've not run a marathon, but running a half marathon, I remember, I think I'd said walking down the steps was more painful even than walking up. But like, not only did I not want to run for a while, I wanted to gently move my body. So it's not like you completely disengage, you still are active and moving, but it's slower and it's gentle. And, you give yourself some time before then you gradually get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I am with ministry. I feel
you don't lose your fitness or lose the, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd like to take these next 90 days and just recharge.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just kind of, I don't know. And just kind of pray over what's next.
Yeah.
Like what is next for me? And, I believe it's going to be something at Read 3, but I'm also open to whatever. And, it's kind of like, we'll see what happens next. But
well, it's even like you talked about too with like the Sabbath and like sitting and being really quiet and stuff, like research and everything shows like we're a society now that we always have stimulation, like your phone's in reach, you always have something. And most of the time we even have two things, like we've got the TV and the phone and somebody sitting with us. And so, but our brains aren't adapted. Like you can't cast vision and have ideas. And I think you and I've talked about this before. I don't know when you get your ideas, but like for me, I can sit. I am, I'm an overthinker. I will think and I will try to identify every possible path that an event could go, and then all the little offshoots of that path and everything that could happen. But most of the time when I get like my creative ideas or my aha moments, it's like I've gone for a walk, or I'm sitting and like having to wait for something, or looking at the birds, seeing something, or I'm in the shower. It's like those few times when I don't have anything else and my mind finally is able to like not be distracted. And I think that's the other thing people probably don't get. Like if you're constantly like creating sermons and events and all those things, you eventually get to the point that's like routine instead of like inspired, I guess would be what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the slow down too, that's going to like spark all that again.
And really close to finishing my third book.
Yeah.
And I want to knock that out.
Yeah.
I originally had set May 1st as my goal. And then I kind of, it's like, all right, maybe June 1st. Now I'm thinking maybe July 1st.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm still waiting on your part.
I know.
You ever sent me that?
I know. I have it on my to-do list. I have a draft. I just need to finish it. I've just got to.
Give me your draft and I'll clean it up.
No, it needs to be in my voice. And if you clean it up, it may not be in my voice. Anyway, I'll get it to you. I promise. I will.
That's really the last thing I'm waiting on.
I know it's crazy. I've had a few things going on too.
Yeah. So that's my big news is I've semi-retired, taken a sabbatical this summer and seeing where that leads. What's your big news, Beth? We've been kind of hinting at this for a few weeks, and now the cat's out of the bag. So what is it?
I had said I didn't know if I should even do this on this podcast because the official announcement hasn't come out yet. And you're like, I don't think that many people are listening to the podcast that's going to like preview this.
Yeah, I told Beth, we're not Joe Rogan. I don't think TMZ or the Associated Press is going to pick this up
and put it out there. So like I had in February, it was February 6th, I had my 20-year work anniversary at my current employer. And that's the employer that when we talked about it last week, we talked about where some of the work that I do is something that like was created and evolved over time. And for people who can't put context around 20 years of your life working somewhere at the same place, that's longer than Josh has been alive, part one. Part two, just for context too, about when I first started working there, I remember I had like a little inbox, and when I needed to review a contract or review something, we were just coming off the tail end where lawyers still dictated things. Like they would have a little cassette in those little recorders and lawyers would dictate things and then somebody would type it up. I never did that because I could type faster than I could do that. But I was still in a paper age, essentially, when I came in 2006 to my job. Like they would put the contract in a blue folder in my inbox and I would handwrite or review it and put it in the outbox. And then somebody might go in and make those changes. So that's just a little context on, we still used the office phones all the time. You were in person all the time. So a lot's changed in 20 years. And in my company, it's grown a lot and a lot has changed. But one of the things is a lot of people don't understand what I do, and that relates to this story of like what my job is. But I was always like an employment lawyer and I managed outside litigation. But because when I started there were only 2 attorneys, so we did everything. I mean, if we had something that was criminal in nature, you'd advise on that. If it were HIPAA privacy, you advised on that.
But let's just pause that.
Right.
Because chronologically, just a 30,000 foot, 10-second flyover. You graduated from Wake Forest Law School. You clerked for a federal judge for a year.
Yes.
Then you went to work for a large law firm.
Where I practiced, I was in the litigation and the employment law groups, and I did a little bit. I had my Better Call Saul moment very briefly, because if you had worked for a federal judge, you could be, I forget what it was called, but it was basically the appointed list to do federal public, you weren't a public defender, but you would pro bono handle some cases. And the reason people would want to do that would be to get trial experience. So I did a little bit of the federal criminal defense very briefly while also doing the litigation and labor and employment work at the law firm.
Right. And then you went in-house.
Yes.
And was the first ever attorney and
at Salem Academy in College.
Salem Academy in College, your undergrad.
I was also a dual role. So again, when you talk about thinking outside of the box and just doing stuff, which you and I seem to have, a knack for, I was the general counsel and chief planning officer, which meant I was responsible for like all planning functions. And I sat on like what was it? It wasn't the Winston-Salem Foundation. I can't remember. It was something like Winston-Salem. Then I would go, and it was like renovate. It was like when we were trying to like revitalize the downtown in Winston, and I was the representative for Salem. But I did all these planning functions in addition to being the first general counsel. And then in 2006, February 2006, that was when I took my job. At that time, it was North Carolina Baptist Hospital. And was at North Carolina Baptist Hospital that first 4 years. That was when I was there. It was just me and one other attorney, my boss, and we were it. We did, so you can imagine everything, like you've got an employment law question, you've got a discrimination case, you've got a lawsuit that may need to be managed, you have someone that's been accused of theft, and you have to look at that, you have HIPAA privacy, patient ethics, cases, abuse cases, everything you can imagine. Did that for like 4 years. So really was a generalist. And in that way, I was like the equivalent of the small town person that is like opened up their practice and is kind of taken anything that comes in the door, because just because people think if you work at a hospital, they think, oh, well, you must just do medical malpractice and things that the hospital did wrong. You can think people slip and they fall. They have workers' compensation cases. You have nursing rules and regulations you have to follow. You have lab rules and regulations, a pharmacy. But in addition to all that healthcare stuff, it's a business. It's a business with a finance department and, an IT department. So it truly was like a general practice. But in 2010, North Carolina Baptist Hospital came together with Wake Forest School of Medicine, and Wake Forest Health Sciences is the official name, and they more officially became Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. So in this 20-year period, I've worked for a lot of employers. So when that happened, the employer became Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. And at that point in time in 2010, I was able to start focusing more on kind of going backwards because our department grew. We had a few more attorneys by just coming together. And so it was like, okay, well, you'll focus a little more on this employment and litigation stuff, which I did. But then a few years into that, the attorney for the medical school that advised on a lot of the medical school faculty stuff, she retired. And people, when you think about faculty, like I say, people always think about like in college, you go sit in your lecture and that person that stands in front and teaches you, that's a faculty member. That's an assistant professor, associate professor. That's the model people think about. In medical schools, faculty may be physicians. So like, for example, my dermatologist is also a professor. So she sees patients, but she teaches medical students and residents. So they do both. And medical school is different because there's a lot of like that hands-on learning. But also some of the faculty at medical school, they're researchers. They're people that are out there trying to grow organs or study like alcoholism and the impact on the brain. And so they're out there getting grants, like when people talk about grant funding and stuff like that. So anyway, because it's such a specialized area of faculty are different in medical schools. And that's not just at Wake Forest. That would be any medical school. And because the faculty are different than they are at a traditional undergraduate campus, maybe the contracts are different, the expectations are different, the way they're paid is different. And where normally with employment law, let's say I might be like, oh, Mike got in trouble, so we're going to just do the written warning, final written warning, terminate him. Well, if it's a faculty physician, you may have a contract. So first of all, I need to pull your contract and see what do I have to do under the contract to discipline you and terminate you. But if you have a faculty appointment, you also, and what I mean by faculty appointment, if you're an assistant
I feel like
professor,
I'm at a lawyer TED Talk.
Sorry.
Right
Anyway,
now.
I'm sorry. But if you have that, I'm almost done. If you have that, I also have to follow certain processes. There are things I have to do with you because you have certain policies. You have things like academic freedom people talk about. People talk about the concept of tenure. So anyway, the reason all this matters is because somebody has to understand how those things come together. somebody has to understand how you employ these faculty members, but also how these faculty appointments and all these things from the university work. And so this is the best way I know to explain. So when that other attorney retired, I became that somebody. And as I was that somebody that understood those things and learned things over time, and as academic medicine has changed, the need for that expertise grew. And we had at one point, in that, under that Wake Forest Baptist Medical School structure, where like the dean left and the person in HR changed and everybody left. And I was the last person standing that understood all of this. And that's when we talked and we realized that having an associate dean that understood this stuff could be helpful in addition to the lawyer understanding it. So, when that happened, I think in 2018 was when I also became an associate dean in addition to being a lawyer. I couldn't find anybody else in the United States that had this role. We looked because we weren't looking even for somebody with the exact same associate dean role. We were just looking for a lawyer that wasn't teaching like bioethics or something that even worked as some sort of dean in the medical school. And we had a really hard time. I found like 2 people, but they had very different roles that I taught to. So for years, I've done this work that I've done, and I've been like, I think I'm the only person out there. Plus, you fast forward, that was, in 2020, Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center integrated with Atrium Health in Charlotte. So I got my 3rd employer. And then in 2022, Atrium Health and Advocate Aurora integrated. And so now it's Advocate Health. So I have my 4th employer. Plus, it's more confusing because Wake Forest School of Medicine is kind of separate. So even though I've been at the place for 20 years, there has been constant evolution and change. And so if you fast forward to here I am, I've been plugging along. I've done some, talks, written some papers, done some different things with people on models that we came up with to manage all this stuff and how we do it. And then, I don't know how many weeks ago, a recruiter reached out to me, and they had a position, and it was an associate dean of faculty affairs. And they wanted a JD, they wanted a lawyer. And I read,
this is probably like March is when this happened.
Probably. Yeah.
I know it was. So it's been a few months ago.
Right. So I read the job description and I was like, what in the world? And I wasn't looking or anything, but I was so intrigued because I was like, I did not know anyone else in the United States had this role that I had, except in their role, it's full time. You're not trying to balance being a general employment lawyer and litigation in addition to doing all this nuanced work. And in this place, it was just this role. And I found out, I ended up I was like, well, what can it hurt to talk to the recruiter, and trying to find out about it, and just was really intrigued. This sounds like what I do, and how is there somebody else? And found out that the person who was in this role has been in this role for 20 years. And so it was just interesting that, I've been in my role 20 years. The person that's retiring has been in his role 20 years, that he's a lawyer and he's an associate dean. And it was just like, this just is crazy. And so I ended up interviewing, and they felt like I was a unicorn because they didn't know anybody else that, had all these job skills was out there. And I felt like they were a unicorn. And so, because I didn't know a job like this existed. And so we ended up talking, and to say the process is thorough would be like an understatement, because there were multiple Zoom meeting interviews, with the recruiter, and then after the recruiter with the person that with HR, and then after HR with the person it will report to, and then after the person it will report to, their in-house legal staff and some of the people in the office. And then it's like, okay, fly down and let's interview in person. And I think I interviewed with 14 people or something in a day and a half. It was back to back to back, because these roles are roles that you have to deal with chairs of departments and with the deans and the lawyers and HR. You have a lot of people you have to be able to work with. And they seemed really serious about me. And I was like, well, maybe I would leave, but then the struggle came of, I think they really wanted me to relocate. And I was just like, I can't relocate. I don't want to leave home and friends and relationships, but also Project Read 3. We've got like this whole thing here, I don't want to move. And we kept talking, and eventually they were like, okay, you don't have to relocate. It will require some travel. I'll travel once a month for a week. But this past week, I submitted my resignation. So I'll end my employment after 20 years. And I will start a new job at the end of June.
Big news.
Yeah. So, and it has been incredibly emotional and difficult because there's so many mixed emotions of excitement and the idea of opportunity, fear, like intense fear of the unknown. Like, am I crazy? Because like when you start a new job, like I've been where I am forever. I've accrued all this vacation time. I've established myself, like everybody knows me. You don't have to prove yourself, and then I'm starting over, like I've got to find new benefits. I'm going to have no vacation. I have to start over like at a zero vacation bank and accrue it. I have to prove to everybody that, I have to prove my value and prove my worth. But it's been really neat because everybody that I talk to is so excited about me coming, which feels really good to have people excited. And I think for me, the thing I came back and told you that was so cool about it, as I've just explained in my TED Talk, no one understands what I do. And so you don't have a lot of people, unless you're going to conferences and speaking about it and stuff, that you could talk about, and when I went there, every person that I talked to was like asking, they understood, they got it, because that's the world they live in. And so just to talk to people that understand the work and value the work, and like they would ask me follow-up questions, or like they want me to, bring some of my ideas. That was really, really cool and life-giving to be able to talk about it to people who get it.
Yeah, you can tell that Emory really wants you.
Oh, you just said the name. I didn't even say who it was.
Oh, I thought you had said it. Sorry.
No, I said that place.
Oh, there we go. Now they got to rewind. Here, I won't say it again. But they really want you, and they've made that abundantly clear that you were their top choice. You've always been their top choice.
Yes.
They were willing to do whatever it took to make sure you were comfortable with going there and being a part of their environment and staff, and which I know has to make you feel good, because when you've been in a place as long as you have, I mean, even Jesus said, a prophet's not respected in his own town. You're there. You're no longer the shiny new toy.
Right.
It's just like we talked about earlier with pastors. It's like that newness wears off. That newness wears off after a couple of years for most.
Right.
20 years later, for you at the same place, as much as your place has grown, you're a number. Like there's and this isn't just picking on your current employer. This happens in every business that grows, every business that's acquired. This is modern day capitalism. You become a number.
Right.
And your skills, although they may be appreciated, are not fully appreciated. And there's people...
Because no leader, they don't have the luxury of getting to understand my skills.
Exactly.
And if no one understands what you do, that makes it even more challenging.
And it's become, in the corporate world, everybody's replaceable.
Right, yeah.
And so they just figure, well, if this person leaves, we'll just find somebody else to fill in that. But they can't. Like, you have such a specialized skill set. I think your current employer is going to have a hard time replacing you. And I even said they're going to have to hire 2 people to replace you. And I think the new employer realizes this. And that's why they're so excited to have you. And meeting you, they enjoyed getting to know you, like you're delightful. So, I mean, it's like, they enjoyed that. And they were like, man, we're getting someone who's an expert in her field, and she has personality, and will enhance our university and medical school.
Well, that was one of the things when I was struggling. One of the people I talked to that I would work with, she's not a decision maker because I guess she would report to this position. But I'd talked to her to ask some follow-up questions to make sure I understood the role. And this is before I'd accepted it. But she was like, I text every day and ask if you've accepted this position. And she is like, I am so excited to work with you. And I was like, why? But she was like, well, not just because of your expertise and stuff. And this is the part that was really, really sweet. But she was like, but you're like a real person. You're not a robot. And she talked about, some people they would talk to that was like, well, I'll come in at 8 a.m. and work until 8 p.m., and this is a younger woman who has a toddler, and she's like, I want to work with, she's like, I looked you up. She's like, not only do you have a family, she's like, a lot of people might say they started a nonprofit. She's like, you have a real nonprofit. And she's like, and it's really cool, everything that you do. So she had like done this research and she was excited about me, not just for the expertise I will bring professionally, but she was excited about me personally as a colleague. And to your point, I think that made a huge difference for me too, because that frankly is really, that's one of the hardest parts in leaving, because I have some deep, deep friendships where I am, work relationships. I mean, those people are my second family. Some of these people that I have worked through all this stuff with, and leaving them, and you'll keep in touch, but it's not the same, because I've watched so many of my friends leave, over the past years through all these transitions. And we do message, we try to get together for lunches, but it's not the same when you're not working with somebody every day and talking to them. And also for context, you were talking about just the way the company changed. I'll probably get these numbers wrong, but I think North Carolina Baptist Hospital, when I went, had like 8,000 employees. And then when we came together with Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, we were the largest employer in the county. And I think we were like 20 to 22,000 employees. And then when we integrated with Atrium in Charlotte, I think we were around 70,000 or something. I think now, I'll get this wrong, but I swear, I think we're like at 170,000 or something. Like,
with Advocate Health.
Right, with Advocate.
Yeah.
And so you've got to think, too, for somebody like me who started at a place that was more like 8,000 and then spent a lot of years at a place that was 22,000, largest employer in the county. Okay, yeah, that's some bragging rights. But like to then be in this massive company, it's a very different type of way to work. And I think that's been something that's also I've learned a lot from, is just seeing the differences. But one other thing I will say for women and everybody out there, the negotiating thing, granted, when you haven't gone and looked for a job in 20 years, you don't know what you're doing. And so thank goodness part of this fell into my lap. But then when they started coming back to negotiate, thank goodness I had some trusted people that I could talk to and say, do you think I should do this? That could just help me think through, like, oh, you need to bring up this, or you need to make sure they know this. But I will say, this is every job I've had before then, they just sent me a letter and said, here's your job and this is what you'll be paid. Or, and this is everything, the law firm, Salem, even Baptist when I started. Every job, they were just like, this is what we can pay you and here's your work hours. And there was no negotiating. I went back on this one 3 or 4 times. Several times. Mm-hmm. And not just pay. I mean, it was other things too, like things. And I
kept telling you need to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You're an expert in your field. They want you more than anybody in this country.
Yeah.
Like bet on yourself,
And I don't know. And I don't think I'm the only woman. I think a lot of women feel this way, but women tend to not negotiate. We tend to not ask for what we think we're worth. And for me,
you'd rather get the job and then complain about
it. No, but for me, it's like, it feels as a woman to do that. And this sounds crazy. I mean, and I shouldn't say as a woman, because I'm speaking for me. I can't say I'm speaking for all women, but for me, it almost feels like I'm feeling entitled or selfish to ask for something, but they have statistics. They said and I do think this is true. They said a man will look at a job description and they'll be like, oh, I can do 3 out of the 10 things that are listed. I'm clearly qualified. A woman will look at a job description and say, oh, I can do 9 out of the 10. I'm clearly not qualified. Like we just approach it in such different ways.
Oh, we saw that over the years. Whenever you'd see a job pop up, and you'd be like, "Oh, I wonder if I should apply for this."
Yeah.
And then you'd be like,
But I don't
I'm
have
not
this one
And I'd be
skill.
like,
Yeah.
who cares? Like,
Yeah.
just apply.
Right.
Like, you don't know. Like, and we fought about that a lot.
Because I would be like, I don't want to get into this job, and then they think that I can practice international law or something, and I'm like, no, I can't, or something,
and I'd be like, just apply.
Yeah.
Here, like, shoot your shot. Just
Yeah.
see what's happening.
Right. But it is, and I think the whole thing with the negotiating is, it just feels weird to me. And I think people think that's weird because they're like, you negotiate all the time as a lawyer, but I'm advocating on behalf of someone else. And so, I think that's the other thing. It was almost like I wish I could have sent somebody in as a proxy for me. Like, okay, Mike, you go advocate for me.
I even said that at one point. I was like, you just need to hire an agent.
Yeah,
that
just
can
let
go
them
in
go
there
to
and
it.
negotiate
Yes.
for you.
Yeah, because then they could be like, let me tell you all about Beth, or this is what she has to have. It's harder when you're doing it for yourself.
Well, and what was funny now, I mean, it was funny to me then, but it's funnier now, is like how offended you would get. Like they would give you an offer and you'd be like, I don't even want this job. Look at what, and I was like, honey, it's negotiation.
And
They're
I
just,
know that.
I'm
yes.
like, they're going to give, like, you say what you want, but you're like, I'm not even going to reply. And I'm
but
like,
what's
come
so
on
crazy
now.
is it feels so personal though,
It
because I do
does.
it all the time. This is what I do in mediation. Like we'll go in and I'll be like, okay, I'm asking for X amount in settlement authority. Why don't go in and say to people, all right, I'll settle this this for X. No, I start like down at C, and they're coming in at Z, and then we're somehow meeting somewhere in the middle of where we start and where we end. But it, again, to me, it was just such a different, as a person who hasn't done this before, as a person in personally for your own job, it was hard and it was stressful. But I'm really glad, I guess I'm saying all this to say, I'm really glad though I stuck to it and I asked for what I felt like I needed. Because I know you were joking about we'd rather do it and complain about it. But I feel like what happens is, as women, and this has happened to me before, and I've heard a lot of other women talk about it, we don't negotiate because we just take it as like, well, that's the offer and that's it, and that's what we take. And then we get in the job and we find out that everybody but us, even some of the other women, negotiated and they have a much better deal. And then you feel resentful or bad. And once you're there, it's really hard once you're there to get your employer. The time to do it is before you start. And so I do think that was like quite the lesson for me. And also, of course, it's all doing it respectfully. It's not like you're like, give me this or I'm not going to do it. It's more like, well, this is going to be a problem. And like everything that I asked for was very well thought out. I had reasons for everything that I asked for. And I really tried to be upfront and only ask for what I thought was fair based on my skill level and all of that. But I think one thing that's good about it is because of that, I do feel good about it because I do feel like it was fair. Does that make sense? Like I feel like the whole process was. So anyway, it's been quite the thing. And now it's hard because like I'm just having everything from like, oh my gosh, I have like 20 years like worth of people's contact information and Outlook, or my calendar. Everything lives in my work calendar. There's like, you have to change, you may have to change your doctors. You got to change all your insurance. There's just all these things. And I will have a travel component. So for me, I'll be going a week, a month. And so I need to figure out where I'm going to live and what will that look like? And will I fly? And if I fly, will I rent a car? Will I try to do public transportation or will I Uber? Or, can I get on the shuttle line? Like there's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving pieces to figure out. So I'm trying to pace myself, but it's hard. And you're trying to tie up. It feels awkward, like telling people now that we're so big and people are spread out where that I am, like there were certain people that I was like, I want them to hear this, from me, because I love these people, but it's going to be impossible for that to happen before the rumors get out and people know.
Send them the link to this podcast.
Yeah, just be like, listen to this, and you'll hear that, I love you, bye friends.
It's not you, it's me.
Exactly. But I guess I knew it would be emotional, but I don't think I could have accounted for how emotional this process. I mean, I'm talking like crying and anxiety. I mean, there are days like I text and I'm like, I've made a terrible mistake. I can't leave. What was I thinking?
You've been a hotter mess than usual.
Yeah, I have been. I've been like a boiling hot mess. Like I am boiling over. And then there are times, like I said, that I'm super excited, but there's just so much that you're like, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I hope it's good. But I will say, I know everybody's putting on their best side for like interviews and stuff, but that was the other luxury I had. I had a job and I wasn't looking. They came and found me. I went into this and I was 100% myself and at ease. And that probably helped them view me as a real person because I wasn't going in there like, my biggest weakness is that I care too much and work too hard. I wasn't
you didn't have
doing
to beg for that job.
No.
You had one, so it was like, well, if I get it, great. If I don't, nothing's going to change in my life.
And I was upfront about the stuff like that, either that I didn't know as much about or I didn't like, like, well, I can do that, but that's not like, one of those things that I feel like I'm great at. I could be so honest, and so that was good too. But I guess where I'm going with that is I feel like even though everybody's on their best behavior, I tried to ask questions about like, okay, what do I need to know that I don't know or what might need to change? And I feel like some of the people were pretty forthcoming. And so I feel like we both on both sides have as good of a feel as you can have at this stage. I know it'd be naive to think every workplace has warts and every workplace is going to have problems and there's no way you would know all of them. But I do feel good about the people, like that call that I, like just the people that I've met, some of the conversations, the kindness, the culture, that part I don't think you can easily fake that. I really don't. I don't think you can fake a culture or warmth that I felt from some of the people, and stuff. So I do feel like at least that, I feel like unless I've totally misjudged everyone and, I think I've got some good people skills and intuition. I don't think I have. So, yeah.
Well, big changes for both of us. You'll be starting a new job this summer.
Yeah.
I'm not having a job this summer.
Yeah.
So,
it's a lot of changes.
It is.
And we're hoping Jacob makes it back from the wilderness if anybody wants to check him.
We'll see.
From his job this summer, from his first field job where you go to GPS coordinates and stuff. So, so we've got lots of changes, lots of changes going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it. I mean, this has been a good talk about just, again, we always say, hey, are you still there? Is life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry? And all of that collided.
Yeah. It did. Ministry, careers, family.
How it all, how it affects all of us. So,
I will say that's the last thing that's so hard about like even the careers and the ministry. You talked about it a little bit at church, like sacrifices your family makes for you in ministry. But careers too, that's something that I think when you're making career decisions, that's one of the things that's hard for me. It's like, well, if I do this, what impact will it have on my family? And weighing that in addition to, you're not just always looking at like what's best for my career advancement. You're also having to think about the impact it has on those people you love. And so that's something we could talk about sometime too, just balancing that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, good discussion today, Beth.
Yeah.
And so thanks for tuning in, everybody, for another edition of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. Until next time, this is Mike.
And Beth.
And this is Hey, Are You Still There?